So I'm here with Steve Meade as our senior PM here at Energy Electric. So we're going to have an interesting chat about multifamily design build projects that we participate in. It's a big part of our, I suppose, portfolio because we see a huge opportunity in the market to get involved in designing jobs for what they need, not necessarily the copy and paste we see sometimes, right, coming out of some of the engineering firms or some of the architectural firms where there's a lot of waste that we see. So it always depends on the owner and what they're motivated by. The plan and spec definitely has its merit and always will. I think Steve and his team have done a fantastic job of creating some options, I think, out there. And that's what we like at Energy Electric to do, create options. But I suppose, Steve, let's start with how you kind of started getting into this. You know, you're a strong electrician yourself with a background in the trade. So how much did that help? And when did you start to see the design build work become something that you wanted to get into?
Well, before I came to Energy, I was a former another electrical contractor, and I was doing a multi condo complex,
Right.
and where it was essentially design build.
Right.
So I had to figure out on my own,
Right.
how to size it.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that, and then when I came to Energy, that knowledge was there, and I just built on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because any electrician that's starting out in the industry in a van that drives up to his first job site is essentially a design build electrician, right? You know, they're out there, where am I going to put this bedroom outlets, right? You know, they're figuring it out. And that's interesting. So started there, and then you started to look at it, and then it kind of started to scale, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it started to go up because the thing that we see here when it comes to that is and especially on the multifamily side of things, the calculations formula doesn't change. The amount of units just gets increased, and then you get to just adjust based off the scale, and your engineer then works with you to get kind of where you are with your final calculations, right? How do you kind of, because that's again some of the stuff we see with the plan and spec, it comes in and we're like, this is way overkill. Like, we don't need all of this. And then we try to bring in some value engineering and work it through it. And then there's an over and back about, well, how much was that worth? No, I'll stick in my original. It gets it gets a little bit tough sometimes to get the value engineering through because there's so many layers. So this removes all the layers. And how do you feel that benefits you and the work you do?
So everything happens so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, like if with this design build, things change on the fly,
Right.
so quickly. So you kind of have to think outside the box because you have to make that decision,
Right.
Of how are you going to do it? And now we don't have to wait to send RFIs to engineers and wait 3 weeks. We can make the decision and make it happen.
Right, I like that.
So.
Yeah, I like that. And it's I know you kind of obviously then have your general super at Casey, for example. How involved is he early in the process?
So he does he'll do the original site walkthrough with me, especially if it's an existing building. We'll look at existing infrastructure if we can reuse it.
Right.
And then me and him will just bounce back and forth ideas like panel placement.
Yeah.
And how big of a panel do you think we can get here? What are they putting in based on previous projects?
Okay. And and that's Casey, which is huge because that's something that we kind of struggle a bit sometimes is getting to the job site early for the field to see the existing conditions.
You're right.
To understand, okay, straight off the bat, I see some opportunities here to get stuck into this project and do some stuff get ahead of the schedule, right? Which is a big thing for us, the prefab opportunities, which could be more difficult, right, in your work because design build is a lot of coordination on site versus the plan and spec is a lot of coordination off site, which ends up with a set of drawings that can be prefabricated, whereas you don't necessarily get there because you've got to coordinate with the job site and figure out what all of the other subs are doing, how they're doing it, what are their ideas. Talk to me a little bit about that too, because how important to you is it that the other subs are familiar?
It's actually very important. On the projects that we usually work with the same customer, it's typically the same subcontractor, HVAC, plumbing,
Right.
Which I have a good relationship with.
Right.
So if I need HVAC submittals for load counts and stuff like that, they provide that as early as they can.
Yeah, that's huge because I think it's also the whole, and you'll hear that on any construction job site, right? We're working with the same foreman, the same project manager that you've worked with on another job. There's a quick an easy way of understanding. I get emails back super quick when I send them this. There's just even small little things that you don't even think about that are happening. And on the job site, that's even more important, right? When the foremen are talking to each other on the job site, they have already got a respect that they don't have to build up over the first few weeks, couple of months. That can happen on other jobs. And I think the other piece of it then too is like when that's going in the right direction, the relationship with the client, right, is critical, because that's something I've talked about. Anytime I sit in front of any client who's considering this option for their project, I talk about the trust factor, right? And I think that's something that you've done really, really well for us, is that any of the clients that you do this with, major trust is there that you're designing the right kind of a project for them. You're getting the right kind of maybe lighting package that they need. You're doing the EV chargers in the right way. We're actually putting in provisions for future expansion into the scope of work, and we're bidding it and pricing it that way. Because they typically don't go out and take those drawings and bid them elsewhere, right? The vast majority of the projects, sometimes you get into some type of pricing issues. It's not perfect, right? But you typically would get the owner on board, and the trust factor is there, which is a big, big piece of it. And I know, how do you navigate that when it comes to, building that trust factor? What are the biggest things that you do that continues to get the relationship going more and more? Why would they not move away and find another electrical contractor?
So I do my best is to think outside the box to help save the customer money.
Right.
Perfect example was we're doing a project, and fire department requested a BDA grid test,
right,
which is typical.
Yeah.
The size of the project, 95 units. So you performed the grid test, and it failed.
Okay.
But just barely.
Yeah.
Failed on the cusp. So I brought it to the customer's attention, saying, "Hey, here's the report. It's just right on the cusp. You may want to present this to the fire department and see if they'll let you get away without putting a BDA. Save you a good substantial amount of money.
Right.
BDA system." And then he did, and he got back to me. He said the fire departments don't need it. We don't need a BDA because we're just on the cusp.
Right. So that's interesting.
Like that.
That then builds the trust, right? That only just compounds over time, that you've got someone out there and that's the biggest thing I think on this type of work, design build, design assist, is that you are representing the client, right? You're not in the position of, I'm a subcontractor on the job, I get my set of drawings. If it's not on the drawing, you're getting a change order. And we don't approach that way, but that can be very, very black and white on a lot of the plan and spec projects. But I think on design build, the change orders come from the owner, right? They say, for example, I've got a building, now I'm going to do bothered lighting. I'm on the walkway. I didn't plan on doing that. We're still not, I'm at the right stage to bring it up. Hey, add in bothered. You do a change order, you submit it, it's good. There's not, I think that's the other side of it. You get an opportunity to make money on the design because you set up the typical design that we like to install. You don't get as many opportunities on the change order side of things because it's our job to foresee the change orders that are coming.
Right.
You can't turn around and say, hey, we just did our inspection and there's 2 more outlets per unit have to be added. They're going to go, well, that was in your pocket to design it that way. You didn't design it that way. That's on you. And it is on us. And we don't go back looking for silly things like that at any point in time, so it's kind of important. But I think the other side of it too is the electricians on the job site, as they're working through the project, they're almost like a different kind of an electrician. How do you feel the skills that they need? What's the kind of stuff that you're looking for when you have a good team on the ground?
So like I said, for a design build electrician, as I mentioned before, you have to think outside the box. You don't have a set of plans in front of you that's going to tell you every step of the way. So if you can't figure out yourself or how to proceed with it, we have a great team behind us. Casey, we go with him. If he can't he'll approach me, and then I'll come up with the final say and how we.
That's huge because it's something that electricians then love, right? Some of them love it. Okay, I get to go into this unit and just go wire it, right? Whereas other ones have to go into a unit and go, well, where is that box exactly on what's the nearest 2x4 I can get it on, right? And this is typically on just the multi-family stuff we're talking about. We do design build on industrial warehousing. We do a design build on pretty much any kind of a project where it has merit. But it's the same kind of constraints, right? It's the same kind of issues that you have. It's the biggest thing is we get in super early. They talk about it in plan and spec that they like us to get in early, but it's really, once the job's designed, it's a bidding game, and then you get in and you're off to the races and everybody else. Design build, you are in even just, and I find that sometimes your budget can be pretty close to what the job ends up being priced at, right? Because it's a consistent type of effort.
Yes.
That's something I think you do a great job as well, as looking at, lighting packages. We got some lighting packages coming in for multifamily projects in and around Boston, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a unit. you know, and we're looking at it going, and because of our design build experience, we come away and go, we're doing them for about 1,800 a unit. What is the story with the lighting package? And the GC will say, yeah, it's crazy, because they've got 26, 30 divisions of the job. They don't know necessarily what the right lighting package is. And, you know, some clients are particular about it. They have partnered with a very popular and, I say popular, you can talk about expensive architect or interior designer, right, for certain looks in certain areas of the city, and because they want to charge a certain rent. Right, so that's kind of the abilities there. But when you're looking at lighting packages, when you're looking at gear packages, do you have typical vendors you work with and stuff that you like, that because that gives consistency then to the field, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I usually have a set lighting package.
Yeah.
That I use for majority of my projects.
Yeah.
Set vendors. Set vendors, I sway towards one more than others.
Yeah.
But I always keep it as a bidding game to
Yeah.
see who wants to come up and play.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. Yeah, it's the same for us too, right? And again, it's not all milk and honey, as we say, as regards this world. You know, we do get into sometimes where the relationship has gone on for years and years. We have one or two clients that we've been doing this 15 plus years. And every once in a while, we have to kind of maybe, have a conversation that can be awkward and difficult, because they might think our pricing is getting a little out of whack. We might think their expectations are getting a little bit out of whack. And, the flexibility and the respect of the relationship has to be reset sometimes, right? Because, that's the other piece of it. You can't really do this type of work unless you're super reactive to any request that they have, right? They could have scenarios that they don't foresee coming because they rely on their subcontractors. And I think that's something that we just we've learned over the years. It's the customer's always right in most respects, but in this regard, it typically is. So if they have challenges, if they have issues, you have to be there ready to respond, right? And that's something that, there's no such thing as an escalation or a time, escalation change order in this world, right? They're not interested in that. We got to get the job done. Schedule's kind of loose-ish. Sometimes it can be tight, but then it tends to be a date, right, that you have to get in the door. No, thanks, Steve. Yeah, that was a great conversation about our design build world and what we do and on the multi-family side of things. And thanks for taking the time to sit chat with me.
All right, thanks for having me.